The Buddha said to Ananda, "You and I are of the same family and share the affection of a natural relationship. At the time of your initial resolve, what were the outstanding characteristics which you saw in my Dharma that caused you to suddenly cast aside the deep kindness and love found in the world?" Ananda said to the Buddha, "I saw the Tathagata's 32 characteristics, which were so supremely wonderful, so incomparable, that his entire body had a shimmering transparency just like that of a crystal. I often thought to myself that these characteristics cannot be born of desire and love. Why? The vapors of desire are coarse and murky. From foul and putrid intercourse comes a turbid mixture of pus and blood, which cannot give off such a magnificent, pure, and brilliant concentration of purple golden light. And so I thirstily gazed upward, followed the Buddha, and let the hair fall from my head. The Buddha said, 'Very good, Ananda. You should all know that all living beings are continually born and continually die, simply because they do not know the everlasting true mind, the bright substance of the pure nature. Instead, they engaged in false thinking. It has been so since time without beginning. Their thoughts are not true, and so the wheel keeps turning. Now you wish to investigate the unsurpassed body and actually discover your nature. You should answer my questions with a straightforward mind, because that is exactly the way the Tathagatas of the 10 directions escaped birth and death. Their minds were all straightforward, and since their minds and words were consistently that way, from the beginning, through the intermediate states to the end, they were never in the least evasive. Ananda, I now ask you, at the time of your initial resolve, which arose in response to the Tathagata's 32 characteristics, what was it that saw those characteristics, and who delighted in them?" Ananda said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, this is the way I experience the delight. I use my mind and eyes. Because my eyes saw the Tathagata's outstanding characteristics, my mind gave rise to delight. That is why I became resolved and wished to remove myself from birth and death." The Buddha said to Ananda, "It is as you say, that experience of delight actually occurs because of your mind and eyes. If you do not know where your mind and eyes were, you will not be able to conquer the wearisome dust. For example, when a king's country is invaded by thieves, and he sends out his troops to suppress and banish them, the troops must know where the thieves are. It is the fault of your mind and eyes that you flow and turn. I am now asking you specifically about your mind and eyes. Where are they now?" Ananda said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, all the 10 kinds of living beings in the world alike maintain that the conscious mind dwells within the body, and as I regard the Tathagata's blue lotus flower eyes, they too are on the Buddha's face. I now observe that these prominent organs, 4 kinds of defiling objects, are on my face, and so too my conscious mind actually is within my body." The Buddha said to Ananda, "You are now sitting in the Tathagata's lecture hall, looking at the Jeta grove. Where is it at present?" World-honored one, this great many-storied pure lecture hall is in the garden of the benefactor of the solitary. At present, The jeta grove is in fact outside the hall. Ananda, as you are now in the hall, what do you see first? World-honored one, here in the hall, I first see the Tathagata. Next, I see the great assembly, and from there, as I gaze outward, I see the grove and garden. Ananda, why is it you are able to see the grove and the garden as you look at them? World-honored one, since the doors and windows of this great lecture hall have been thrown open wide, I can be in the hall and see into the distance. The Buddha said to Ananda, it is as you say, when one is in the lecture hall and the doors and windows are open wide, one can see far into the garden and grove. Could there be someone in the hall who does not see the Tathagata and yet sees outside the hall? Ananda answered, World-honored one, to be in the hall and not see the Tathagata and yet see the grove and fountains is impossible. Ananda, you are like that too. Your mind is capable of understanding everything thoroughly. Now, if your present mind, which thoroughly understands everything, were in your body, then you should be aware first of what is inside your body. Can there be living beings who first see inside their bodies before they observe things outside? Even if you cannot see your heart, liver, spleen, and stomach, still the growing of your nails and hair, the twist of your sinews, and the throb of your pulse should be clearly understood. Why don't you perceive these things? If you cannot perceive what is inside at all, how can you perceive what is outside? Therefore, you should know that you state the impossible when you say that the aware and knowing mind is in the body. Ananda bowed his head and said to the Buddha, upon hearing such expression of Dharma as the Tathagata has proclaimed, I realized that my mind is actually outside my body. Why? For example, a lamp light in a room will certainly illumine the inside of the room first, and only then will it pour through the doorway to reach to the recesses of the hall. For all living beings who do not see within their bodies, but only see outside them, it is as if the lighted lamp were placed outside the room, so that it cannot illumine the room. This principle is certainly clear. It is absolutely beyond all doubt and exactly the Buddha's entire meaning. And so, it isn't wrong, is it? The Buddha said to Ananda, all these bhikshus who just followed me to the city of Shravasti to beg in sequence for food have returned to the Jeta grove and are rolling their food into balls as they eat. I have already finished eating, but consider the bhikshus. When one person eats, does everyone get full? Ananda answered, no, world-honored one. Why? These bhikshus are arhats, but their individual lives differ. How could one person's eating cause everyone to be full? The Buddha told Ananda, if your mind which understands, knows, sees, and is aware were actually outside your body and mind would be mutually exclusive and would have no relationship to one another. The body would be unaware of what the mind perceives, and the mind would not perceive the awareness within the body. Now, as I show you my tula cotton hand, does your mind distinguish it when your eyes see it? Ananda answered, so it is, world-honored one. The Buddha told Ananda, if the mind and eyes create a common perception, how then can the mind be outside? Therefore, you should know you state the impossible when you say the mind which knows, understands, and is aware is outside the body. Ananda said to the Buddha, world-honored one, It is as the Buddha has said, since I cannot see inside, my mind does not reside in the body. Since my body and mind have a common awareness, they are not separate, and so my mind does not dwell outside my body. As I now consider it, I know it is in a certain place. The Buddha said, now where is it? Ananda said, since the mind which knows and understands does not perceive what is inside, but can see outside, upon reflection, I believe it is concealed in the organ of vision. For example, when someone places crystal bowls over his eyes, the bowls cover his eyes, but do not obstruct his vision. The organ of vision is thus able to see, and discriminations are made accordingly. And so my mind, which knows, understands, and is aware, does not see within because it resides in the organ. It can gaze outside clearly without obstruction for the same reason. It is concealed in the organ. The Buddha said to Ananda, assuming that it is concealed in the organ, as you exert in your analogy of the crystals, if someone were to cover his eyes with the crystals and look at the mountains and rivers, would he see the crystals as well? Yes, World-Honored One. If a person were to cover his eyes with the crystals, he would in fact see the crystals. The Buddha said to Ananda, if your mind is analogous to the eyes covered with crystals, then when you see the mountains and rivers, why don't you see your eyes? If you could see your eyes would be part of the external environment. If you cannot see them, why did you say that the mind which understands, knows, and is aware is concealed in the organ of vision, as eyes are covered by crystals? Therefore, you should know that you state the impossible when you say that the mind which knows, understands, and is aware is concealed in the organ of vision, in the way that the eyes are covered by crystals.